Good evening, folks. To those of you that's on the call, if you've never attended the Thursday night Q&A, it's all with regards to financial advice, and you ask questions, I try and answer them for you, and that's basically how it goes. Let's see. Oh, somebody has joined via the invite. Thank you very much. Good evening. So, if you want your question answered, if you have a question, the sooner you get it in, the more likely that I will be able to answer it in time, because sometimes we run out of time. We do this from 6 to 7. So yes, get your question in quick. Let's start answering some questions. MKM, how's it? Good evening. Welcome. Marina Govender and Alex Oosthuizen, good evening. Ogies, Raybox. People have the most interesting names that they create for themselves. I always am astounded by the names that people take. But so be it. So let's see. Lots of people coming in, and then they realize it is not somebody busy taking a bath, so then they disappear again. But for those of you that are here not to look at funny videos or anything like that and want some financial advice, please go ahead and ask questions and let me see what I can help you with. Okay, how do you generally identify a good portfolio? MKM, how do you generally identify a good portfolio? Okay, so MKM, number one, I would go and look at the structure of the portfolio. That's the first thing. Then I would go and look at the portfolio manager's, what do they call it? Now I've forgotten the name. But basically, they give you an explanation within the portfolio, which tells you that how they choose stocks and how they manage the portfolio. Some people say we buy value shares that we keep over a long time. Other people say we make use of this strategy or that strategy. So I go and look at that. And then obviously there is some companies that has very good names in the market and that has come a long way and has good portfolios. So that would be a plus point. And then what I do is I take these portfolios and I go and measure them against each other, because it's actually very easy, so to speak, to pick a decent portfolio that is in the right risk category for somebody. There's what they call the Raging Bull Awards every year, and the Raging Bull Awards is once a year rewards they give out to investment companies for the best balanced fund and the best equity fund and the best this and the best that. And on a regular basis, portfolios are also measured in from the best, the top 10, the top 20. So there's a lot of places where you could go. So for me, it's pretty much, I like to look at what the portfolio manager says as a start off point as to how he's going to manage the portfolio. Excuse me. And once I am happy that his management style fits in with how I would like to see a portfolio manage, then I just go and look at the returns, at the ranking, so to speak, and that's how I decide. And it's amazing that when you go and look at portfolios, when you start evaluating them, there's certain portfolios that have just outperformed everybody. Let me see if I can do this. I'm going to try something here. This doesn't want to work, but in any case. Yeah, there's just certain portfolios that over the years are brilliant and have just about kept on outperforming their competitors over and over, and is always in the top 5 or the top 7 or whatever. And that's what you're looking for in a portfolio, is one that is a consistent, good portfolio. So let's see. I see there's a lot of people joining, a lot of people leaving again. People don't want to listen to boring stuff such as financial advice. So be it, so be it, so be it. So let's see if we can get somebody else that's put in a question. I've just answered MKM's first question for the evening. Mr. Carolus, I actually tried to invite you just to see how this thing works, but when I click, invitation sent. There it says at the top, invitation sent. So maybe, just maybe you click in and then we see how this thing goes. There we go. Couple of questions here from Dean Martins. Wow. Dean Martins says, please let me know, do you get your tax bracket back on your annuity or does... Look at that, Rowan Carolus. Good evening, sir.
Hi, Courtney.
How's it, Rowan? I'm trying this out for the first time, so I've just invited you folks. Now, if you want to ask questions tonight on GPF, then this is the man that can answer it for us. I don't know how long Rowan can stick with us, but if there's a question, I'm going to let him answer it. In the meantime, Rowan, let me get back to Mr. Dean Martins. He says, please let me know, do you get your tax bracket back on your retirement annuity or does everyone get 26%? So, Dean, in terms of retirement annuities, in terms of your rebate, whatever your personal tax bracket is, that is what the rebate is that you will get on your contributions to retirement annuities. Then when you go into retirement, the tax bracket that you will be taxed upon will depend on how big your income is that you receive, not only from your retirement annuity, but from all sources of income. So your tax brackets for either rebates or taxed on income is always dependent on your personal income. Okay. Rowan, you must just tell me if you have to leave, mate.
Yes, I'll tell you. I'm just in town quickly, but I'm not driving, so I'll be able to answer and stick with you in the meantime.
Okay, I'm gonna see if we get a question here on the GPF. And look at this. Emblem says, can you advise an individual to buy back years from GPF? So Rowan, this is the ideal question for you. Would you advise individuals to buy back years from the GPF?
Emblem, it depends. So it depends on your current financial situation. For instance, if you have less than 10 years service, then it would be a strong, yes, you should strongly seek to buy back years to at least have the 10 years of service. Otherwise, it could be quite expensive to buy back years, so that needs to be taken into account as well. But it's a good option to look at the option of buying back years.
There we go, Emblem. I agree 100% with what Rowan has just told you. If you buy back years because you're on a defined benefit fund with the GPF, the formula obviously with more years will give you a bigger income, give you a bigger 1/3, so that's ideal. The only time I think that it would not be advisable is if you say you want to have more flexibility with your choices in retirement. And then you would rather go and take up an additional retirement annuity so that you will have two sources of income one day. One from the GPF and one from the retirement annuity. Let's see who is next year. Sorry, folks. You know how it goes. I have to scroll up and down because I don't know how to get these things to stand still. Dean's. Oh, okay, Dean. It's only a pleasure, mate. Only a pleasure. Let's see who's next. And yes, Rowan, I don't know if you've ever seen this when you do these things. You get these gifter badges and all kinds of things. I don't know what it means. I wish it was money in the bank instead of gifter badges. Folks, yes, got a lot of people coming in and out tonight, but not a lot of questions being asked. So I reckon it's going to be a quiet Thursday evening for me for a change. Rowan, now that we are on the GPF, let me ask you a quick question on GPF. I'm sure there's people that would like to know this answer. If a person in the GPF retires, obviously if they pass away, then their spouse will become the beneficiary of the income going forward, correct? Well, seems like Rowan has disappeared. Oh, sorry, folks. I really wanted to ask him a question there, but seems like Rowan is gone. Might be network. Not sure what happened there. Okay, we will ask him that question when he comes back, if he comes back. Dean says, do you get tax rebate if you put a lump sum money into your retirement annuity funds? Yes, Dean, you will indeed get a rebate. So remember, with regards to contributions to retirement annuities to get rebates, okay, the maximum you can get is on 27.5% of your contribution. So if you earn 100,000 Rand per year, you can contribute 27,500 Rand per year to retirement annuities and get rebates on that full amount. The law does not prescribe that it has to be a monthly premium or quarterly premium or lump sum or a combination of any of that. It's all about how much you contribute from the 1st of March until the 28th of February. That is your financial year. So it doesn't matter how you contribute it. Be that monthly premiums, be it lump sums, be it a bit of both, doesn't matter. You get your rebates. It all, at the end of the day, has to do with how much has been put into your retirement annuity. That will decide what your rebate will be that you're going to get. Okay, then I hope that answers it for you. Let's see who's next year. Okay, Sujay says, how many preservation funds can you have if you leave work and over some years leave the next job? Sujay, you can have as many preservation funds literally as the amount of jobs you've had. So what I mean by that is, if you worked with company A for 5 years from the age of 25 to 30 and you leave them, you can move that pension or provident fund into a preservation fund. If you were the next company for 2 years, you can move whatever is into a preservation fund. So every time you leave a company, you can move the money into a preservation fund. So the amount of preservation funds that you will have at the end of the day will depend on, over your lifetime, how many companies you were with that had pension and provident funds that you actually contributed to, and then when you left, you actually moved it into those preservation funds. So there is absolutely no limit. It's totally dependent on you and your job history, basically. In some cases, the preservation fund does not allow you to add onto it. How do you solve for that? So it's not in some cases, it's in all cases, okay? You can never contribute anything else to a preservation fund. It's only the pension or provident fund value that you had with the company that you've now moved into a preservation fund that can stay there. You can't put anything on top of that or into it. That's it. And the reason for this is that your preservation fund basically takes over the rules of the pension or provident fund that you were with. And what it basically means, for all intents and purposes, we all can take 1/3 in cash and 2/3 from the age of 55 or any time thereafter. But when it says it takes over the rules, it actually means that if that company that you were with, their retirement age was 63 for argument's sake, or 60, then for all intents and purposes, that's when you're supposed to retire out of that preservation fund. They're not going to keep you to it. They're not going to hold you to that. You can go the age of 55. But it's because of that piece of legislation, that's the rule that's built into the transfer to make sure that you can transfer your money tax-free. It's because of that rule that's been built in that you cannot contribute extra to it, because you're not working for the company, but you've taken over the company rules. You can't contribute to the company anymore, because for all intents and purposes, the preservation fund says you're actually still employed. And because you're still employed with this fund, that's why your pension fund is lying here. But you can't contribute to it anymore. I know it's a bit technical and it's a bit difficult to explain, but I hope I've made myself semi-clear here. Let's see who's next. Oh, says, hello all, just one question. When the company is having section 189 and you're under 55, what happens? So, if I'm not mistaken, section 189 is retrenchments and retrenchment packages. So if you're under the age of 55, you get the option once again that you can move your money into a preservation fund. If it is a voluntary retrenchment, they can apply for you to have 500,000 Rand paid out tax-free, and then the rest on a withdrawal sliding scale. If you are in a forced retrenchment, then you actually get the retirement tax tables. You can get 550,000 tax-free and then the rest on a sliding scale. You can also choose to take 1/3 and move the rest into a preservation fund. So legislation makes provision for you to get access to your funds and not to be taxed too severely, because it's not your fault that you're being retrenched. So legislation says, okay, we cannot penalize this person. But it also does mean that if you make use of the retirement tax tables or the special withdrawal tax table, if I can call it that, then when you get to the age of 55 and you now wish to retire out of whatever funds you have, you're not going to get the tax-free portions again. You've had it, it's once, it's over, it's done with. Okay. So there you go. I hope that's answered it for you, Oz. Sujay. Oh, there's Rowan. Rowan is back. We lost Rowan for a substantial period of time. Don't know why. Sorry, folks, I'm just scrolling back here. I don't want to miss somebody. Somebody says, I think you skipped my question. It's not impossible. Sujay say, if you withdraw, does that affect your 550k, or is that separate and only applicable at retirement age? So if you move your money, if you resign and you don't move your money, or if you resign, you can move your money tax-free into a preservation fund. But if you choose to withdraw, okay, then 27,500 is tax-free and the rest is taxable. So it is never a good idea to withdraw money when you resign. So you do not get the 550,000 tax-free then, because you only get it at retirement. It is only, like I've just explained, on retrenchment that you could potentially get the tax-free portion. Oz, I think I have answered your question. So unless you asked the second one, I didn't see it. Okay. So let's see who else we've got here. I just saw a new question. I know it's here somewhere. Just hold on, folks. Common sense says, when someone dies and in their will they transfer the property to a trust, do you pay transfer fees? Yes, indeed. It does not matter who inherits that property, whether it's a spouse, a child, another beneficiary, charitable organization, a PTY, a trust. It doesn't matter. There's always transfer fees from the deceased name into whoever is inheriting it. Okay. Where do we go next? Dean says, so you will only get 100k per year on tax rebate, and if you put more in, is it worth it? No. You don't only get 100k, Dean. I used 100,000 rand as an example. I said if your salary is 100,000 rand for the year, so your total salary for the full year is 100,000 rand, that's what you get. Now, it's 27.5% of what your income is. So if your income is R1 million a year, you earn basically 90,000 rand per month or 80,000 rand per month. Then on R1 million total income per year, 27.5% is what you can contribute towards retirement annuities. That means 275,000 rand you can contribute to a retirement annuity, and you will get a rebate on that full 275,000 rand. It's not limited to 100k. I just use that as an example. There is a limitation in the sense that if you earn 2 million rand per year, okay, then 27.5% of that is 540,000. Then the legislation says, no. We're only going to allow you a maximum of 350,000 rand in contributions to RAs that you can deduct for tax purposes. That extra money that on the 540,000, the extra 190,000, they're not going to give you the tax deduction on it. But it rolls over and over and over until actual retirement. And in retirement, okay, let's say it's only once that it happened, 190,000 that you couldn't deduct, get to retirement. Now, instead of only being able to take 550,000 tax free. You can take 550,000 plus 190,000 tax free because you didn't get the tax deductibility previously. So you never lose out on it. So yes, you can contribute more than what you will get as a tax deduction, but you will never lose out. You will always get the deduction at some point in the future. Sujay says, is it advisable to keep it with the company or move it? You're talking once again about your pension or provident fund, and if it's advisable to keep it, to leave it with the old company or move it to a preservation fund. For me, Sujay, it's always a question of having to go and see how well that company's pension or provident fund was doing. Very often, people resign and they want to know exactly this. And then we ask the company to please send us the detail on their pension or provident fund, which funds they invested in, what the performance was of the person's pension fund, etc., etc. And then once we've got that information, we can go and see. And if we see that the return on the investment was, let's call it 8%, then I can show the client that we can actually get them 9 or 10 or 11%. It's client's choice if they then want to move. If the client is getting 11% already, makes no sense, then you can leave it there. So it all depends at the end of the day on how well that pension fund is doing. Okay. Dean says, is it better to put the extra on a savings account over 100K? So Dean, once again, we spoke about the 100,000. My opinion is that every person should invest at least 15% of their income in order to get the tax deductibility. That's number one. From there on, we have to go and look at your need for liquidity. That means having cash available. Are you going to need money somewhere in the future to pay off your house or to buy a new car cash or to send your kid to university or something to that effect? And then you go and plan your investment based on what your need is going to be into the future. And it differs from person to person. Some people say, listen, yeah, I will just pay everything. I just want to get the maximum rebates, the maximum pension in there, and they will contribute everything to their pension fund and retirement annuities. Other people says, no. I like the idea that I get a bit of a tax deduction, but I want to know that if I need money, I can access those funds. And they would make use of unit trust or endowments in order to get that access. So it's all going to depend on you as an individual and what your needs are. What is going to be the best combination for you? Okay, so let's use next year. Oh, there we go again. This happens every now and again. I have to go back and find where the last comment was because there's so many people coming in and out that I get a bit lost. So please do be patient with me while I just get back to that last one. There we go. And now I can do the next question that we've got here. And that next question is by, there we go. Kindness. Can you explain the 4% rule in a living annuity? Okay, Kindness, yes, I can. So basically, what it means is the 4% rule says that if you want to ensure that whatever money you have in your 2/3 and that you're going to use now to buy yourself a pension with, if you put it into a living annuity, if you want to ensure that the income that you are going to get can escalate on a yearly basis with inflation or a little bit better than inflation, and at the same time you don't want to exhaust your capital, you don't ever want to run out of money, then you take a 4% income. That's the drawdown you take. That is the safe drawdown to ensure that your capital lasts forever, that your income increases with inflation and keeps up with inflation, and that you will never have a problem, so to speak, in retirement. And that's basically the 4% rule. Oz says, no thanks. Shot, thanks. Okay, thank you. Mickey, Correa, I resigned, but now I am unfit to work. Sickness, I'm 52 years old, so I won't qualify. Mickey, I don't know what you won't qualify for, Yeah, if you resign, Mickey, irrespective whether you're ill health or disabled or not, if you resign out of your own free will and you then want to take money out of your retirement annuity, pension, or provident fund, the retirement annuity won't allow you to take money until 55, and the pension or provident fund that you resign from, if you draw money from there or from the preservation fund, you move the two, you're going to pay withdrawal tax. So the only time that this does not happen is on retrenchment, okay, or if you are declared disabled, but then your disability pays out until your pension comes into play. I hope I've answered the right question, Mickey. The question was not very clear. Common says not according to SARS. Okay, I don't know what you mean by that. I don't know if you're talking about the 4% rule, but yeah, that's the way I know it. Let's see. Folks, we're getting there. Lots of, there we go. Okay. Common sense says, SARS says in a will, CGT applies, not transfer. In a will, please explain. No. I'm sorry to say, but I think you've got it wrong, and maybe you have not read properly what SARS said. So in terms of capital gains tax, okay, there's always capital gains tax payable on gains that one has made on investments, if the investment is taxable in your own personal capacity. Okay, so the first property that the person has, your primary property, there's no capital gains tax on it unless the gain that you have made is more than 2 million rand, then there's a capital gain. But on every other property, there's capital gains. Okay, unit trust, for example, always, whatever the gain is, there's capital gains tax. So if you die, in terms of the CGT rules, you or your estate will be liable to pay capital gains tax on the capital gains that's been made on those investments. There's no two ways about it. Your estate will pay that CGT. And when the property needs to be transferred from you, your estate, because you passed away, to somebody else, the transfer fees also apply. So you could go and check it up. You can check it with any lawyer that you want. You can check it with any CA. That's how it works. You can't get away from capital gains tax or the transfer fees. I hope that explains it for you, common sense. Dean says, thanks, you helped me a lot. Your videos helped me a lot on taxes and retirement news. Great, Dean. Mate, I'm glad. That's why I do it. I really enjoy getting comments like this. It makes me feel that I'm contributing to some people and what they need to know in their lives. Ryan 8, hi Corey, if you have 500k in a savings, how much is a safe investment on a startup small business? Wow, Ryan, that's one of those questions where we normally come back with an answer about how long is a piece of string. Ryan, so here's the thing that you have to understand. Starting a business is one of the riskiest investments that you can make. Statistically, okay? Statistically, it says that for every 10 businesses that is started, only 2 survive. And from those 2, only 1 becomes very successful. So if you look at absolutely high risk, and normally we talk to people about alternative investments and saying, if you really want to go that route, it's money you must be willing to lose. Then I would say 10 to 15% is the maximum that one should put on an alternative investment. So looking at a new business as also being high risk, I would say 10 to 15% of your 500,000. So that's 50 to 75,000 rand to start in a small business. Problem with this is, if you start a small business, many people are not going to be able to start it for that amount of money. So then they start justifying for themselves why they should be spending 300 or 400 or the full 500,000 rand for the business. So for me, I don't think that the amount of money that you start a new business with is justifiable by taking it as a percentage of what you have. I think the amount of money that you use will be dependent on how well you've done your planning on your new business. And by that, I mean, one has to really go and plan when you want to start a business. You must understand taxes. You must understand legislation. You must have investigated the market to see if whatever you're going to bring to the market has got a value in the market. You have to understand the timeline it's going to take. And a lot of people never do that when they start a small business. A lot of people just think, hey, I've got a brilliant idea. If I go down to the shopping center, there's a open shop there. I am sure that a perfume shop is going to be the best things in sliced bread. And that's what they do. They go and buy stock, they rent the place, they start because this is a great thing. They've done no market research. They've done no planning. So do planning, learn a bit about business, read books, just get yourself some more information. And then once you feel that you are comfortable and that you've got a good chance of making this business work, then one should look at how much am I willing to put towards this business. As much as I've explained this to you, remember at the end of the day, the majority of very wealthy businessmen that has become multimillionaires is people that has taken big chances and they've taken everything they've had and they've thrown it into a business. And as a matter of fact, those people have gone bankrupt 3, 4, 5 times before they ever made it work. So it's two ends of the scale, Ryan, but I can't tell you which one to go with. You have to decide that for yourself. Okay, that was a nice one. Bridget, is this 11% nominal or real rate? Oh, sorry. Bridget, it depends on the type of portfolio we're talking about. If we're talking about a medium risk fund, it will be the nominal rate, and you can expect to get a real return of about 9%. If we talk about more aggressive funds like global funds and so on, then it will be the actual real rate that you get. So it depends on how one going to look at it. I normally refer to the portfolio returns on a real rate basis. So I don't like to tell people 11% and then afterwards they say it's 9% and then I say, oh yeah, but you have to take off cost or whatever the case may be. So when I talk about it, I normally talk about the real rate that one can expect as a return. Oh, now we're going to jump again. Hold on, folks. Here it goes. I have to jump quickly. Oopsie. Well, folks, I don't know. This is very interesting for a first night. The amount of people that's come in and gone again. And the amount of people that's sticking here, it is wonderful, but yeah, it makes it a bit difficult. Just hang tight. There we go. That's what I was looking for. T-Man says, I moved funds from a fixed deposit to unit trust. Is it a better option for tax purposes? T-Man, yes. And the reason why I'm saying yes is if your money is in a fixed deposit, you earn interest on it, okay? That interest is limited normally to 8 or 9%, something to that effect. And anything above 28,300, I think is the exact figure. Every cent of interest over that gets added onto your income and you get taxed on it. So you pay from a lower base, you pay tax already. If you moved it to a unit trust, the unit trust does not give you a fixed 7, 8 or 9% return. And depending on the type of unit trust that you invested in, you can once again get 10, 11, 12%. So you're going to get a better return. Then in terms of CGT, capital gains tax, because that's the tax you're going to pay on a unit trust. The first 40,000 Rand is tax-free. So you're getting 17,000 Rand more tax-free on capital gains in a unit trust than what you get on interest in the bank. So you're going to get a better return on the unit trust. You're going to get more tax-free portion. So therefore, it is a better, from a tax perspective, to have it in the unit trust. And then, of course, one has to remember the money in the bank, the interest is taxed on an annual basis with your annual income. The money in the unit trust, the growth is only taxed when you withdraw the money. So you can manage your withdrawal in your unit trust so that you draw a capital amount plus a growth amount of, say, 40,000, and that's all you draw out of your unit trust, and then you get 40,000 rebate for the year so you don't pay tax. And next year you can do the same, and the year after that you can do the same, and so you get 40,000 Rand rebate every time. So you can manage your unit trust out to get all the money out without paying tax. It's just going to take a longer time. I hope that answers it for you. MJ, hi, how often should you have a meeting with your financial advisor? MJ, I think it is dependent on how complicated your portfolio and your structure is, okay? If you don't have a very big and complicated portfolio and you've got a retirement annuity because it's all you need and a life policy, that's all you need, once a year, more than enough. But if you have retirement annuities, local investments, international investments, unit trust, endowments, trusts, properties, etc., then it is advisable to meet much more often, and I would say 6 months, every 6 months at least, or maybe as much as every third month. So it's all dependent on the complicatedness of your personal situation. What's next? Please advise how much a monthly drawdown on 2 million would be. Let me get my little calculator closer. So the straightforward answer to you is you can choose what the drawdown is going to be, okay? Because the rule says that you can draw anything between 2.5% to 17.5%. So you can go and calculate for yourself what is 2.5% and what is 17.5%. You're going to see there's a big difference between those two. You can draw anything there. But if you want to make sure that you draw a safe drawdown so that your capital is not exhausted, we talked about the 4% rule earlier. I feel comfortable with 5%, even as much as 5.5%. I feel that you can comfortably get enough of a return to make sure that the person keeps on getting a high income and their capital is never exhausted. So on 2 million Rand, if you take a 5% drawdown, that's 100,000 Rand per year, divided by 12, it means 8,333 Rand per month. That is what I would say is a safe drawdown. I would go as far as, like I say, 5.5%, 6% is still safe. So you could go up to 10,000 Rand a month. But there is no hard and fast rule. And it all depends on you as the individual, how much you need, etc., etc. Common sense, if transfer is to a trust, if the transfer is to a trust, we come back to your question of earlier on, doesn't matter where you transfer the property to from an estate. Doesn't matter whether you transfer to an individual, a company, a PTY, a trust, doesn't matter. There is transfer duties payable. Let's see who's next. Almost there, folks. Oh, no, man. So just give me a second. I skipped a couple quickly by accident. I just want to get to the right person. Okay, there's the drawdown that we discussed now. So we've gone past that one. So see who is next year. Okay, Dean says, if you don't transfer your tax rebate into your RA, what then? Must you put it back into your RA or not? So, Dean, in terms of your rebate, okay, so let's go back to the 100,000 example again. Let's say that you've contributed 100,000 Rand into your retirement annuity. So there's 100,000 Rand in your retirement annuity. Now you get your tax rebate. Let's say it's 31%. That means SARS gives back 31,000 Rand to you and they pay it into your bank account because SARS is not going to ask you where to put the money. They put it back into your bank account. What you now do with that 31,000 is completely up to you. You can decide you're going to go and have a holiday with it or whatever the case might be. The smart thing to do is to take that 31,000 and put it back into your retirement annuity. And the reason why I say that's the smart thing to do is if you've put 100,000 Rand in for the year, and let's assume you've had a 10% growth on your 100,000 Rand, you've already got 110,000 Rand. Now you get 31,000 from SARS, you dump that in there. Now you've got 141,000 Rand in your retirement annuity after 1 year. So effectively, you've got a 41% return on your investment in 1 year. There is no investment in the world that's going to give that to you on a consistent basis. And you will get it consistently if you consistently put that money in, you consistently earn an income that puts you in the 31% tax bracket. So my advice would be, yes, go and put it back into the retirement annuity. Very few people do it. That is the sad thing, but that is the best thing. Bridget, thank you. Real rate is best because it accounts for inflation and purchasing power. Thank you very much, Bridget. I appreciate that statement that you've made for us there. It's just money you get back from SARS. You can use it how you like. Thank you very much, Fayyad, for answering that one. MJ, I only advisor in my retirement age, no choice as is appointed by pension scheme. An advisor in my retirement age, no choice as appointed by a pension scheme. CC, if you are talking about you going into retirement, that you have no choice and you have to use an advisor from the pension scheme, no, that's not true. They are supposed to provide you with financial advice and offer you financial advice and offer you an advisor to talk to you and help you through the steps and the planning, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's your choice who you make use of. You do not have to use the company that you work for, the administrators that they give you. You don't have to use the advisors. I hope I read this one right. It was a bit dear mekaar. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. We're coming up to 1:45, so another 15 minutes. MJ says, I am still very young, so that's not applicable to me. Mine is for big purchases and tracking investments. Okay, MJ, I think you and CC are having an internal conversation here, which I'm missing out on. IPC, what's the maximum contribution towards retirement annuity per year? IP, so basically, you can contribute 27.5% of your gross income to a retirement annuity in order to get the full tax deductibility on the contributions that you make. That 27.5% is at the end of the day limited to 350,000 Rand. So if your income is so big that your contributions, if it is 27.5% reaches 351,000, then only 350,000 Rand will you get the tax rebate on. So that's where the limitations are, 27.5% maximum, up to 350,000 per year. You can contribute more. There's nothing that stops you to contribute more. Anything that's more and that you cannot deduct from tax on an annual basis rolls over to retirement, and that helps that the 550,000 Rand that you get tax-free in retirement now becomes a bigger portion. So every Rand that you could never deduct through the years that you were contributing gets added onto the 550,000, and therefore you have a bigger tax-free amount. Okay, Gelvet. Doing your property profile investments. I can. Gelfit asks if I do property profile investments. We can. I'm not a big fan of property investments. I have honestly never seen a property portfolio that does consistently well and consistently outperforms the equity portfolios that we deal with, even balanced portfolios. So yes, we've got access to a big range of property profile investments, but I prefer not to do them. If you are one of my clients, you're most probably going to have to ask me for that property profile, and I'll most probably put in our little contract that I did not advise you, it was your personal choice to invest there. Webster, hi Gray, the so-called shares people buy online, Ford, ShopRite, Pep, etc. Is it wise? Webster, I think it depends on the individual. I've got a friend that he only buys gold. He buys and sells gold. That's all he does. And he actually got retrenched about 2 or 3 years ago. So he started with a very small amount, 5,000 Rand, and he started doing that. And he basically started doing that because he couldn't find another job in his industry. It's 3 years later, he's still surviving. He's learned a hell of a lot more about the gold market, how it works, when to sell short, when to buy long, etc., etc. He's learned a big amount. So he's making sufficient out of buying and selling gold to sustain himself. Okay, he doesn't deal in any other shares, but he deals in that. But he is now successful enough to sustain himself because he has learned over time just about everything that he can about gold going up and down. If you as an individual is willing to go and study and learn about share trading and the different companies that you wish to invest in, and you then have a good knowledge, then I think it is wise enough to do so. For the plain and simple reason, you know what the pros is, you know what the cons is, you know what the upside and the downside is. You've got a good idea of when the market for Ford is going to go up and when the market for ShopRite is going to go down, etc., etc. So yes, if you are willing to put in some effort and to educate yourself, then not a bad idea. The bad idea, Webster, is when people just hear about a share and then they go, oh yeah, I have to do it. A friend of mine a few years ago, they decided to go list on the stock exchange with a specific product and a specific company, and I've known this guy for a number of years, and I thought, man, yeah, he was doing so well in his business. No way that this cannot work. And I decided to put some money in there, and I invested into his company when he listed on the stock exchange. Needless to say, 6 months later, my money was worth absolutely nothing. It's because I just trusted that this thing was going to work, but I did not understand anything about his business and the dealings. So I know it's a bit of a double-edged answer, but it's like anything else. If you educate yourself and you make sure you understand, you make use of some professional advice and knowledge, I cannot see too much of a problem. But when you just do it because you want to play around, or you've heard this is good, or that sounds nice, or whatever, then it's maybe not the best idea in the world. Okay, Webster, I hope that answers for you. Max, to get the rebate, if you can't be more than the X as well. Oh, thank you. Fayyad, you're so nice, mate. Gelfit, het julle inverters vir property development? Het julle inverters vir property development? Gelfit, ek het geen idee waarvan jy praat nie, want ons doen die property development nie. Sorry, maat, jammer. Miskien verstaan ek jou vraag nie heeltemal reg nie, maar of miskien verstaan ek jou statement reg nie, maar miskien as jy my 'n bietjie beter kan verduidelik wat jy bedoel daarmee, kan ek vir jou beter antwoord gee. Maar gebaseer op wat ek nou net gelees het, is ek heeltemal tipe van in die donker. Okay. Kom ons sien, where are we next? Winnie for Properties and Dev says, can I have a trust for 3? So, To create a trust costs money, okay? There's no two ways. You're not going to be able to get a trust drafted and set up for free unless you know a lawyer or a CA that will do it for you and says, I'll just do it for you free, gratis, for nothing. But no, setting up a trust costs money. You do not have to set up a trust before, if you want to make provision for a trust, for when you pass away, that your assets go into a trust for your beneficiaries. You don't have to set up the trust now. You can make provision in your will for a trust to be created, and that will then be done on the day that you pass away. Okay? But your estate will then pay for the creation of this trust. And no, normally a trust is not free because the trustees are entitled to be paid for the work that they're going to do. Remember, the trustees have to manage the funds for you. They have to look after your beneficiaries in terms of giving them money if they need money, etc. They have to do the taxes. They have to do the financials. So the trustees have a very important job, and they normally ask a fee for what they do. Unless the trustees that you have chosen are once again people that say, listen, yeah, love this person, like this person, whatever. I'm going to do this free, gratis, or for nothing. So, for all intents and purposes, no, a trust is not free and it's never going to be free. Deep Sky, 1%. Interesting names once again. Kindness says, I'm retired using living annuity. I got no financial advisor. I'm using the Signia platform and I'm happy with the portfolio. Kindness, absolutely no problem with that. It's like I said earlier, if people do a bit of educating and they can help themselves in terms of their choices, then absolutely fantastic. Here's the interesting thing, folks. Let me just tell you for a second. If you are going to take something like a living annuity and you take something like a 4% drawdown, you can choose just about any balanced or equity fund and not have a financial advisor, and you're going to be okay for the rest of your life. I would say in 98% of the cases, you're going to be okay for the rest of your life because you're taking a small enough drawdown, and the growth that you should get on that portfolio should be big enough so that you don't need somebody to advise you and move on, whatever the case might be. There are, however, the small percentage of people that does this, like Kindness says she does, who then picks the wrong portfolios purely because they haven't even done the most basic learning, and they might choose a portfolio that doesn't do as well, and because they don't follow the market, and this is the important thing, they don't follow what that portfolio is doing, that portfolio can tank without them knowing it. That I've had a number of times. So that's what the financial advisor is supposed to do for you. They're supposed to manage your portfolio for you. But you can do it absolutely on your own, like Kindness does, and no problem with that. How many percent tax on retirement? So tax on retirement all depends on what your actual income is going to be in retirement, okay? Just as you fall within a certain tax bracket while you're working, when you go into retirement, your income once again determines what tax bracket you fall in. So your tax is determined by your tax bracket. You do get, as you get older, more rebates, which means you pay less tax, but the tax bracket determines how much tax you're going to pay. We are almost through. It is almost 7 o'clock, so I'm going to see if I can answer a few more. And if I have missed you tonight, if I have missed answering your question, folks, in my profile is my WhatsApp number. I answer everybody that contacts me there. So you're welcome to send me a message. Alternatively, I'll be back again next week, Thursday, doing the same thing. Just make sure that you are early enough so that you can post your question, okay? But yeah, at the end of the day, the best way to get a proper answer from me, where I give you a quality answer, if I can do it that way, is if you send me message on WhatsApp on the WhatsApp number in my profile. Okay, let's see. I've got a couple of minutes left, and I see there is one or two more questions. Brigitte, it's because you spoke of property portfolios and misunderstood. Oh, okay, Bridget. Don't worry. I'm with you. If you transfer money into your RA, what fees do you pay? So Dean, basically, when you set up a retirement annuity, the advisor who's advising you is going to earn a certain amount of commission, and that commission is going to depend on how it is taken. We've got different, they call it focused and flexible investments. So it depends on how the investment is structured, what the commission is going to be. Okay, so that's point number one. Point number two is, in the event that you add on an ad hoc lump sum that you put in, the advisor once again will get a commission depending on the type of product it goes into, but you can negotiate it with him. And if I remember correctly, the maximum he can take for a lump sum injection is 3.5%. I might be wrong, but I think I'm right. But you can say to him, listen, I'm giving you this money to put in there, and you've had to do nothing for it. You're just basically doing the paperwork, so I just want to pay you 1%. So you can negotiate that fee with him. And that's basically what the fee is going to be. Let's see. Folks, it seems like I've answered everybody tonight. I am very proud of myself. I got through the session by answering just about everybody. And then I've got somebody called MyGG that liked my live about 110,000 times, which I am very thankful for, MyGG. And it seems like that's everything. So thank you very much. I don't see any other questions. It seems like I've got everything. Oh, wait, there's one more. I'll answer this one quickly. I saw it just now. Man, oh man. When will the property market crash? Who said anything about a property market crashing? Property market is not fantastic, but I don't think it will ever crash. There's always going to be a need for property. Certain shops always needs an outlet spot. Certain people always needs a roof over their head. That was the last one. Dean, I think the last word is for you. Thank you. Have a good evening. You helped me a lot tonight. Dean, I'm glad if I did. Only a pleasure, sir. Everybody else, thank you very much for attending. Next week, Thursday, we do it again. Send me your questions. I'll gladly answer it. All the best. Keep well. Bye-bye.